Hello and welcome on into another episode of the Renegades Sports Podcast. As always, I'm Jake Gable, and to my side, Jacob Smedley. We're doing another episode. We're in the double digits of episodes, which always feels nice to have. We're going to be talking about later in the show the MLB, even though they're not in season right now. The off season seems to be something that is really raising eyebrows and asking if people should even watch the season. But first, we have something else to talk about.
Yeah, but first, while others are raising eyebrows at MLB, you might be raising eyebrows at our fantasy football draft. We're not talking about ESPN, Yahoo, and all those apps we're going through. You might have seen them on social media. Pick the best one out of the four. Jake and I each made lists for the offense. We're doing the offense this week: quarterback, wide receiver, running back, and offensive line and tight end. We each made some lists, and we're going to go through and try and put together the best offense possible. Some Hall of Famers in the mix, some current players in the mix, and we're putting it together. Jake, I am super excited to put this together with you, and you've got quarterbacks to start us off. We've got to get a captain of the offense first, Jake.
Yeah, so how this is going to work, I have 4 quarterbacks, and Jacob is going to be the one that picks the quarterback for our team. That's how all the rest of the positions are going to go as well. So I don't get a say in what quarterback we get, but I get a say on some of the other positions. So it's going to be interesting, and who knows? Maybe we'll all agree. Maybe I'm going to be mad that he took Nathan Peterman as our quarterback, but no, he's not.
Mad again after that Manny Ramirez discussion last week.
Hey, who knows? Maybe I snuck him in on the O-line or something. But without further ado, let's get this started. Jacob, the 4 quarterbacks that you are going to have to choose from, these are some good guys, all right? This is going to be tough. Drew Brees, Brett Favre, Steve Young, and John Elway.
Oh my gosh, that's a good list. You've got guys spanning through multiple eras. Elway and Steve Young kind of leading the way to begin, and then you got Favre and a early 2000s into the early 2010s, and Drew Brees, who just retired recently, but had such a great long stretch with the Saints. Oh man, that is tough. And I think each of them bring different qualities. Steve Young, we want a little bit more of that dynamic runner as well. Some of the other quarterbacks have the vision and passing, but Young adds that running capability. Oh man, this is tough choice. I think one player that I'm going to rule out, though, even though he had a good career, is Brett Favre. It's just the turnovers for me. I'm looking at an offense. We want an efficient offense, Jake. We don't want turnovers, especially because I'm sure we might do a defense at some point as well. We don't want any turnovers. I'm going to rule Favre's out. That's tough. Young, Elway, and Drew Brees. Those 3. It's tough, but the one I'm looking for, the one that I think I'm leaning to, is John Elway to be our quarterback, Jake. I'm thinking of him, leader, taking his team to multiple Super Bowls with the Broncos, really the face of that franchise for a while. I'm going to pick John Elway. That's my pick for quarterback out of that. That was a tough decision to start.
I know. To be honest, I would have had any of these guys as our quarterback. Can't go wrong. I will say, the guy you picked wasn't the guy I'd pick, though. But I'm happy John Elway's on our team. I'm not mad at that at all. The guy I would have picked would have been Drew Brees.
Okay.
I don't know if it's because he's more our era, but I think the accuracy and his ability to carry an offense through the air. But John Elway is more mobile than Drew Brees, and that's something I didn't even think about when I was making the list. So, I don't know. Maybe
a little bit more
me.
mobility. I think how I ranked it in my mind: 5 at 4, Young at 3, Breeze, Elway. That's, I think, how now I'm kind of stacking them up together, and Elway being my final pick, just edging him.
Hey, all of them are
Yeah.
MVPs and or not. I mean, Super Bowl winners.
Yeah.
So I like it. All right, John Elway going to be our quarterback, but Jake, who's he going to be handing the ball off to?
Jake, I got quite a list of running backs here, Hall of Famers, and someone in the present day that we enjoy watching. I got Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, a good friend, Saquon Barkley, and LaDainian Tomlinson. Some guys from different eras. You got an OG and Walter Payton, Barry Sanders as well, and an OG. It really kind of blazed the trail for some of these younger, shiftier backs. Saquon, who's, nearly breaking single season records. I was so close to putting Eric Dickerson in there as well. I went with LaDainian Tomlinson, another guy that we watched as well growing up.
Man, those are all great guys. Another can't go wrong here, but I'm gonna rule someone out early. It might be crazy, but I'm ruling Saquon out.
Yeah,
I think
that's fair.
The legacy and the amount of years he's done it, maybe by the end of his career we'll be talking different. But I think you gotta go with what you're given. So even though I'd love Saquon to be our running back. Well, LaDainian Tomlinson was fantastic. I'm going to rule him out too.
Okay.
Am I? Oh, he's the best pass catcher.
I was going to say he's a great receiver.
Ooh. But
we're going to get to some good receivers
exactly.
now. So.
When you said Barry Sanders, I was like, is there a guy I'm going to take not named Barry Sanders?
That's true.
Walter Payton, though, was so good. But I think I made up my mind. Barry Sanders is going to be our running back. I think his elusiveness and speed, I mean, he was just stuck on some terrible Lions teams. I think he might be one of the GOATs if he had a little bit more around him. The fact that he's already considered one of the running back GOATs is already crazy. I'm going to go with Barry Sanders as our running back.
Jake, we agree on a position. That's who I would have chosen from our list. I agree with what you said there with Barry Sanders. And just like you said, too, if he was on like the Cowboys or, like the Steelers, feel like, he could have, had a prolonged career, maybe had more yardage, setting more records than he did. But yeah, out of this list, I think he's a great guy to be John Elway handed it off to in the backfield.
Ooh, this team looks great already, and we're not even halfway done. So we're going to have 2 receivers. My group of guys that Jacob's going to pick from is only current, and Jacob's going to give me some Hall of Fame or retired players. I don't know if they're in the Hall of Fame. I don't know the list. But the current guys that you're going to have to pick from, I'm really interested. I think you can go a lot of ways with this.
Okay.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Okay.
Terry McLaurin.
All right.
A.J. Brown. And Nico Collins.
I was going to say, are we going all NFC guys the way you started with St. Brown and McLaurin and Brown? That is tough because they bring a lot of different skill sets, McLaurin, Brown, more kind of traditional on the outside as receivers. St. Brown has done, him and Collins have worked well in the slot with their respective teams.
And if I jump in here real quick, this is a little tougher for you because you don't know who I'm going to pick for the other.
That's exactly, that's what I was thinking.
Like, what if I pick a slot guy? What if I pick a stretch the field type of guy? So, yeah.
This is interesting. And also, thinking in mind our quarterback, John Elway, of course, he hasn't played with any of these guys, but, kind of building that, quote, chemistry that wide receivers and quarterbacks have with this kind of pick. A.J. Brown, elusive in the open field, makes excellent cuts on routes, a big target too. I think he has kind of the biggest, frame out of these 4 guys to be able to get him the ball. This is tough. McLaurin, I think, has the best kind of speed out of the group for more that deep threat. Nico Kami, all of them are great. This is a real tough
I was
choice.
proud of this list.
Yeah, that's a great list. Oh man. Nico Collins has had his injury history as well, which could come into play. Had a good postseason with the Texans. This is, of course, A.J. Brown, a little bit of the homer in me, and I'm sure the both of us thinking it's a good pick. I don't know. I think I'm leaning Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I'm leaning towards him because of the list of wide receivers that I have for you here for because we are the general managers. We are the general managers we are the Howie Rosemans putting it together right here. So I'm thinking with the list of the Hall of Famers, the veterans here that I have for you, Jake. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, not only in the medium, intermediate game, but also in the short game, guy that you can toss the ball out to a screen, maybe other than A.J. Brown and Nico Collins, that can get out, can get you 5-6 yards on a screen, can work the intermediate routes in a zone, can beat a guy man-to-man. I think working through that strategy, I think for our team, Amon-Ra St. Brown is the pick. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Jake.
So there are two guys that I was like, I'm okay with either. Like, I'd be okay with all of them. But like, it was really like a two-man race for me. And Amon-Ra was one of them. The other one was the other Brown, A.J. Brown.
Okay.
I don't know if it was the homerism in there because, he does things a little differently for the big play ball. But I like Amon-Ra a lot, especially with Elway, because you get him a slot guy. And also, he's really good at blocking. He's been really good in that Lions system. And he doesn't need the ball every play. Like one of the knocks on AJ, I mean, people disagree on this or not, but some people find him to be like a diva at some times. Amon-Ra doesn't seem to have that ego. And with the team we've built up already, it seems
there's
like
going to be a lot of stars on this
heavy.
team. Yeah.
So I think that's a really good pick. But no disrespect to Nico or Terry at all, because those guys are incredible as well. And if Nico didn't get hurt, we might be talking about him as the number one guy on this list.
Yeah, a very, very talented. It was a tough choice. And I see A.J. Brown. I see the argument, and I think he's a throwback, out of this group with the big body. You talk about the diva, will draw those penalties with his ability to get to the ball. But yeah, like the reasons you laid out, Jake, I think Amon-Ra, I think we're both on the same page. You picked Amon-Ra right too, or you had that in mind too? That's what you were thinking about?
Yeah, him or AJ.
Okay.
Because the other guys too, so that might be helping you.
Yeah, so Jake brought up the word diva, and some of mine on my list may resemble that description just a little bit. Here is the list of the Hall of Famers. I picked some good ones here, Jake. Michael Irvin for the great Dallas Cowboys offense, one of the greatest wide receivers in history. All of them are greatest wide receivers in the history of the game. Randy Moss, prayers out to Randy Moss. I know he's going through a very, rough situation right now, but, one of the greatest wide receivers in the game as well for multiple different franchises. Terrell Owens, we talk about A.J. Brown, Terrell Owens, who, as Eagles fans, we know well, Cowboys as well, Niners, and Larry Fitzgerald, recently retired, but, consistent for year in and year out with the Cardinals for so many years, too. The only, with Michael Irvin, two of them, staying with the same team their whole career, Jake. That's why I was thinking St. Brown, because you have some, big play downfield receivers.
Yeah, these are all like. Yeah. So I like that Amon-Ra pick even more now. Not that I didn't like it. So, okay, I'll be brute honest here. Michael Irvin, immediate chop off the block.
Wow. Is there a reason?
It might be unfair to him because he wasn't in as heavy of a pass happy
Yeah.
era,
Mhm.
but I don't think his stats hold up.
Okay.
And the guys you listed, man, are absolutely insane.
Yeah.
T.O., Randy, and Larry, they are all great. They are all great. But man, when you think about what you want your wide receiver to be, I think of Jerry Rice, who's not on the list.
Yes.
But the next thing is Randy Moss for me. I'm taking Randy. I need a guy to moss someone. The guy it's named after. I think Randy, look at his career, how dominant he was when he had Tom Brady at quarterback. I know he's going to have John Elway in this scenario, but one of the best receiving years of all time. Randy, he's got the speed, he's got the size, athleticism. He really has it all. You can't go wrong with a lot of them, but Randy's my guy.
That's a good pick, Jake. But I am going to play devil's advocate for Terrell Owens right now.
I couldn't do it.
Because you brought up John Elway, and I'm thinking of Shannon Sharp. He was a tight end. He played a different position.
They do have similar builds.
The similar build, that's what I'm just thinking about. This is your pick. Randy Moss, I think, is the other pick. But just like the A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm making the devil's advocate position here for Terrell Owens. Similar build to Shannon Sharp. Similar personality a little bit as well. That moxie that will he'll tell you if you made a bad coverage. He will run past you. He will point to you while you fell on the ground. So I don't know. I don't know if we need a little bit of that adage. Of course, Randy Moss will flex on you after he picks the ball off of your helmet running into the touchdown. But I don't know. That's just where I'm coming from. I really like the Randy Moss pick, especially if Amon-Ra is going to be doing those moves around the like we said, the intermediate, the slants, and then you have Randy Moss that can work in the middle of the field and also take the top off the defense. So I like it. I like the pick, but I also, just want to throw that out for Terrell Owens too.
I can understand it, but hey, we got to make sure this team makes it through the season without killing each other in the locker room too. But
no sit-ups in the parking lot.
And Larry, you get none of that. Larry is like
professional.
The opposite of a diva. So I was thinking about him too, but the big play it's too enticing for me. I needed Randy there.
Yeah.
But I like it so far. All right. Tight ends. This is going to be fun.
Oh, wow. Some great ones I'm thinking of that you might be on this list.
You're picking between Tony Gonzalez, Travis Kelce, Antonio Gates, and Rob Gronkowski.
Wow, what a list. Got a few Chiefs on there, too.
Yeah,
Gonzalez and Kelce. I just thought, too, we have Barry and Amon-Ra St. Brown. A pair of Lions already on our offense. This is tough because you get a lot of different things. You're thinking about blocking, records all around with these guys. I think I'm going to rule out Antonio Gates. I think that's the first one. Had so many phenomenal, consistent years for that Chargers offense with Phillip, where we talked about LaDainian Tomlinson earlier in that great offense. But the other three have just records on records. So I'm going to rule him out right away. And then Gronk, Kelce, and Gonzalez. I mean, if you pick a better group of three tight ends in the history of football, you might be searching for a long time because those guys, I think, are at the top. Kelce he's still playing, but I think, when it's all said and done, he's going to be mentioned, at the top of a lot of records. This is tough. Might be one of the toughest ones so far. Man, Gronk, of course, had Brady, Gonzalez, had so many years of success and really paved the way, I think, for Kelce and Gronk, the way he played and performed. gotta factor into our team here. Blocking involved. I think Kelsey sometimes in that Chiefs offense gets lost in the shuffle. So I don't know. There's other guys on that offense that get touches too. Jake, I think I'm leaning. This is tough because
I can see you start to form the word I thought you were going to say, the name I thought you were going to say, and then you took it back.
Yeah, I'm thinking about just how dominant Gronk was because I was like, I'm leaning towards Tony Gonzalez, but Gronk was so dominant. But I feel like he could have played more years, Jake, and that's why I'm going to say Tony Gonzalez slightly. But they're like here, and here. Like that is where they're all at the top. And Tony Gonzalez, the OG, is going to be our tight end. But I'd love to hear your thoughts that might sway me in a different direction because all of them are like, battling it out in my mind.
I wanted Gronk. I won't lie.
Okay.
But Tony was the clear second choice to me. I don't think Kelsey and Gates are on their level. I think it's a two-man race there, but Kelsey the best after the catch. But I just don't think we needed that on our team too. Yeah. But I feel like Gronk just did whatever his team needed him. You needed him to get 25 yards and barrel through five guys. He did it. You needed him to just set a dude on the turf, on his butt. He did it. He could block. He was a winner. Tony Gonzalez, he did a lot of those same things too.
It was even cool to do all that stuff too.
Yeah, but I think at that peak, I understand the injury concern. And if that's what does it for you, I have no argument against it. But at that peak, I've never seen a tight end better than Rob Gronkowski and put more fear into opposing defenders than Rob Gronkowski. But that being said, Tony ain't no slouch either.
Yeah.
Gonzalez is still a great pick.
Yeah. Tony, he is great. And it was tough with Gronk, but Tony is going at my tight. I'm not backing down for the pick. He is in there at tight end. You bring a good argument with Gronk. I'm staying with Tony as a tight end, Jake. So, finally, to conclude, we have our, as we called it, the anchor, the pancaker, the offensive lineman. We're thinking about it inside baseball if we should do skill positions, offensive linemen, but there have been some great ones in the history of the game. And I've got a list for you, Jake, to wrap things up and complete our offense with an anchor. We've got Jason Kelsey, the recent retired podcaster, late night show host now, but a 6-time Pro Bowl center. Joe Thomas on the tackle, the great tackle for the Cleveland Browns. All those years when they stunk, he was the star of the team on the offensive line. Larry Allen, longtime guard for the Dallas Cowboys, back when the VHS tapes were going in and they were winning Super Bowls. He was on that line blocking for Emmitt Smith, a multiple-time Pro Bowler. And Orlando Pace of the Showtime Rams, really this guy who started the pancake block, laying guys out on the defensive line, putting them on their butts for one of the best offenses in the history of the game, Jake.
Dude, that list took some turns every time that I wasn't expecting. That's really tough to decide from. Man, this guy needs to be the leader of the O-line. He also has to have the skill to back it up. And
need to give John Elway some time.
Yeah, we do. And we need to give Barry Sanders a place to run.
Yeah.
And it hurts me to say, but the two more recent guys I'm going to have to cut in Kelsey and Thomas because I just don't think they had as much size and strength We're looking for the biggest physical specimen. They're all equal on skill, but Kelsey a little undersized in that department. I think he might not be as well known in current, but I think I'm going Larry Allen here.
Right.
The Cowboys offensive lineman, because he moved around that O-line, and I've heard people say that maybe he was the MVP of those Cowboys offenses because of how dominant he was. I mean, go watch some tape on him. Larry Allen was an absolute beast. I think he fits the team well, and I think him and Elway are going to be on the same page. I know we're not probably going to have him at center, but I think we need just someone that's going to be an enforcer and someone that's going to do the dirty work.
Yeah. It's going to lay someone out on a pull block, setting up Barry Sanders for a run.
Exactly.
The yards that he probably made for Emmitt Smith, I don't think people, like you said, give him enough credit. Jake.
All right.
What an offense.
Yeah.
What an offense. We got Elway at quarterback, Barry Sanders in the backfield, Monroe St. Brown and Randy Moss on the outside, Tony Gonzalez at the tight end, and Larry Allen as our anchor offensive lineman pick. I think it turned out well, Jay. This was great. I think we built a great offense.
I know, and you know what? There's so many different ways you could have gone with it. I'm curious what other people might be thinking, because there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah, let us know in the comments below your offense, your perfect offense from our choices, or if you wanted to go outside the box and put your own choices in there as well. Let us know in the comments below what offense you created.
All right. That being said, we're going to flip things over to the diamond now. Baseball. The off-season's been crazy, and it's really been crazy for only one team, however. Maybe the Mets with Juan Soto. But the Los Angeles Dodgers are allegedly ruining baseball to some. They have gone on an absolute tear, signing spree, unlimited credit card with what they're doing. I mean, look at the team they already have. They just won the World Series, and they add stud, star, Cy Young, and new overseas phenoms to this team. I mean, is it unfair? Are the Dodgers ruining baseball?
I don't think they're ruining baseball, Jake. To answer that broad question, I know, you've got everyone on Twitter, TikTok, X, whatever you call it, I'm not watching baseball, this is, the league's got to do something. Yes, I think there are effects that need to happen for this. Is it ruining baseball? I don't think so. I think it's taking baseball in a uncharted territory, if you will, that they've never had to deal with before. I mean, you look at a team, like you said, Jake, kind of listing them off, just won the World Series. That's without Shohei Ohtani pitching. They had other injuries as well that they played throughout the year. Then you add Hiroki Sasaki, another star Japanese player for the rotation. You re-signed Teoscar Hernandez, who was a key in the middle of that lineup. Bring in Tanner Scott, the best reliever on the market. And it's like, oh, come on, all these guys. But I think it's setting a new standard that teams in this league, if you have the World Series on your mind, if you're a team like the Phillies, the Mets, the Yankees, the Guardians, the Astros, other teams that are, in these tight divisions, you're going to have to spend some money if you want to get to the top. And, I think it's more an indictment on the other owners in the league. Like, they are worth billions of dollars too. Let's not forget that. And most of them are not ponying up money as well like the Dodgers are. They're going above and beyond, but there are other teams that could push the envelope a bit, spend more money for their franchises. That's, I think, the baseline thoughts of it. The Dodgers aren't ruining baseball. They are setting a new standard.
Well, I want to get a little bit more into that standard because you mentioned them, but Blake Snell, $182 million over 5 years. They bring back Tommy Edman and Teoscar Hernandez, $74 million over 5 years, $66 million over 3 years. I know I'm saying a lot of numbers. Tanner Scott, they bring from the Marlins, $72 million, 4 year, and then Roki Sasaki. He's on not a minor league deal, but coming on a smaller deal from overseas. The Phenom, one of the best free agents you could have gotten. Those 4, take out Roki because he's on a small deal, are roughly $400 million of signings this offseason alone. It's an insane amount. Do I blame the Dodgers? No. If I had that money and was owning a team, this is exactly what my game plan would do. But we're talking about money that some teams might not reach in a single year on their payroll. And this is like 4 guys that they just brought in. I know this is their total contracts and not their yearly average, but it's absurd. And it gets into what you're saying with the owners who aren't paying up. It seems like there needs to be some fixes because last year, absolutely crazy. So Dodgers paid $367 million for their payroll with $100 million in the luxury tax. In last place was the Miami Marlins, $67 million total.
Yeah.
That's $300 million exactly under what the Dodgers spent. That's insane. And obviously the Marlins and Dodgers went in very different directions. If you expect them to compete at any point, you're out of your mind. I think the guys on the Marlins would think you're out of your mind. And they just lost their best player, Tanner Scott, the reliever, to the Dodgers.
Yeah.
There's a problem with what the Dodgers, not what the Dodgers are doing, but what's happening in Major League Baseball. And the Dodgers are shining a light on it and also benefiting from it as well.
Yeah, I think another part, too, is the deferred money, because we were both looking at the payroll for this season as well. And, the Dodgers, it's $295 million, if I remember correctly, from Spot Track, that shows all the different, payroll, the injured money that's on the books for each team. They have so much deferred money. They have found a way in the system, the kind of loophole, to defer money on these contracts to... It's a 4 or 5 year problem down the line. But right now we're going to, this is the money that you're going to get this year. This is all the money that's going to get backloaded in the future. That's what's going on with Ohtani and a bunch of these, different contracts that have allowed them to kind of, shape shift their roster like this with so many of this high talent, also bend the rules. Because there is, even though there is no salary cap, which I think a lot of people are calling for, there is tax thresholds that tax these teams, like the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Yankees, the Mets, all of these teams that pass through. There's, I think, 4 different levels, and each of them, there's increasing money value. Feel free to go look at, the exact, money that's taxed on it, but there is taxable, income based on how much money you bring in.
And if you're a repeat offender, you also have to, you get taxed a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think the Dodgers have been a repeat, I don't know it off the top of my head, but several years in a row, and it doesn't seem to bother them at all.
Yeah, so, they're still paying that high, but, again, if they weren't deferring this money, they would be close to $1 billion on the salary themselves. But I think that's another part where, they have found a loophole in the system. No one, they can't stop it. It's a loophole in the free agent system, and no one else has taken advantage of it. They've taken advantage of it and built a great team. Now it's the reaction to all this. What are other teams going to do? Is Rob Manfred going to have to kind of make a decision here? You can't like strip them of players, but is there something that you have to do to other teams to kind of incentivize spending? It's tough with the owners because all of them are buddy buddy. It's very hard to orchestrate something like that, the mass spending like that. But I feel like something could be in place. This is the first little avalanche off the mountain, and maybe we see some more residual effects. A quote I have here from Jeff Passan from an article from ESPN. The Dodgers are no longer just a team chasing championships. They are a stress test for the game itself. So they are essentially, to kind of summarize what Passan is saying, they are now a test for the league. They have found a little loophole. Now, how does the league and the other teams react?
You know what? That screams everything we've said, but also
Yeah.
that quote. It tells me there's a problem with the system.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know your thoughts, but I think there needs to be some major overhauls here.
Okay. I'd love to hear these overhauls, Jake, because we have been on this show. Jake is running for the commissioner of baseball, right? Yes, this is plan 2 for his running here.
There needs to be 2 things, in my eyes. A salary floor, which you have to spend a certain amount, allows those teams, like I mentioned the Marlins, I'm not soloing them out just because they were just at the bottom last year. They traded a lot of guys too, so that also played into it. But teams at the bottom, you have to spend a certain amount. I don't know that amount off the top of my head.
I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
I had $110 million. Looking at 2025, there were only 10 out of the 30 teams that were under $100 million. There was, I think it was the Rockies that had like 110, 999,000. But I think that's something like that, that you can.
That sounds about right in that range.
Yeah.
Maybe like 100 million.
Not too much, but
you
gotta get not 42. You can't, that's a little too low of a payroll. You gotta get some guys. If you want to trade him mid-season, you can do that. Just sign him on to the team.
Yeah, give yourself a chance, because if it's working out, maybe you don't want to trade him away at the deadline because you're no longer sellers anymore. Also, I'm fine with luxury tax. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with owners willing to pay that. But at some point, I think there needs to be a hard cap. I think there needs to be a limit. I think it can be pretty high. I'm not saying to lower it $100 million and make the Dodgers trade away a bunch of players. But is it a coincidence that the Los Angeles Dodgers are the team that is doing this? Would we be here talking about the Minnesota Twins paying the most out of any single team? Their market helps them out a lot, and they just inherently are going to get more money. That's why their franchise is valued as a higher thing. And we need a way to help the teams in smaller markets that aren't going to get, on average, the same amount of money. A World Series year, like for a smaller market team, might get them more money than the Dodgers did, but that could be once in a century for some teams.
Exactly.
And so I think you have to put that limit on it, because the Dodgers can basically print money at this point. They're going to be in the playoffs every year if this goes on. They're going to make a lot of money if this goes on, because they're having postseason success, because they have stars that people want to watch. They have stars that people want to see in person or with television deals. And then, you just got to bring it down. You just got to bring it down and try to make it a little bit more of a level playing field.
So
It-
you're saying both. You
I'm
want a
saying
floor
both.
and a cap. You want kind of this kind of situation.
And you can get luxury. I'm saying you can still hit that luxury tax threshold before you hit the hard cap.
Okay.
But at some point, I don't know the number, but maybe 350 mil or something. You can't go above that, which the Dodgers are currently projected to go. Last year they had 367 million.
Okay. I like that idea. Mine was just the salary, floor. I'm interested to see how kind of a cap would work, and kind of like stopping it, because I think that's a whole nother thing as well, and both of them in play. I think that's very interesting. I had, again, just like you had, Mr. Commissioner Gable, also had a kind of a floor idea too. And like I mentioned, earlier, when you're talking about the floor, you have a third of the league that is under that threshold, and I know there are potential downsides to it, because you're just pushing teams to sign guys, even if the guy's unhappy to be there, doesn't want to go there. It just, the more competitiveness when you're talking about these free agents. There were two teams that were in on Roki Sasaki at the end of the day: the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. And the Blue Jays gave it a fair shot. And I know, all of the baseball fans are clowning on the Blue Jays, because they missed out on Sasaki. They missed out on Ohtani a year ago. But that just, at the very least, incentivizes teams to be more interested on these free agents. You can speed up the process a little bit. You can get different offers. You can even get some surprise picks from guys going to different places. Because, let's say you have a Cincinnati Reds team that is on that, 90 million, and they have a certain proposal. They want to get over this 100 million threshold, and they can offer a team this amount of money that maybe this player, this amount of money that another team is not. And this player goes to Cincinnati and creates that excitement, that buzz that you brought up. So I'm interested to see how a salary cap would work as well, in unison, like you mentioned, Jake. But that floor, maybe if it's not 100 million or 110, could be something that's beneficial, just for more suitors in the free agent market, competing with a team like the Dodgers signing guys.
And just last note on this with the cap, why I think it's a good idea is you see it in the NBA a lot. You might want to go to a team, but the contract you're asking for just isn't possible unless they shed salary. There's not that system in place for the MLB. So I don't blame any player that goes to the Dodgers, goes to a super team, because they're offering you the most amount of money and you get to go on probably the best team.
Yeah.
There's no downside. If that was in play,
live in LA.
If that's in play, let's say Blake Snell, they already hit their account. Blake Snell wants to go there. Well, guess what? You either have to take a pay cut or you just can't. Like, your salary asking is too high. Dodgers would either have to trade people or they aren't a possible outcome for you. And that's how you also bring parity into the league. And he's forced to look elsewhere. Yeah. I just think that it would really benefit the MLB.
Just like before, Jake, you've got my vote. Let us know. We're voting him in. Commissioner Manfred, count your days. Jake is coming in. Make some wholesale changes. Yeah, but that will do it, Jake. Yeah. Another very action-packed episode. Let us know your offense in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts on this. Are the Dodgers, changing baseball, ruining baseball? We think a little bit different. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And be sure to like, subscribe, follow for more content, and we are also now on Spotify as well. If you have Spotify, just search up Renegade Sports Podcast. You'll find us there as well. We'll be posting more videos there as well.
Yeah, very excited about that. But also, through this time, we've also been doing shorts as well on Instagram, on TikTok, and last recording, we weren't sure if it was going to be back. As of right now, it's back.
back.
It made it through. So we're going to say TikTok still. Who knows? The days might be numbered. Maybe it'll live forever. But check us out on there. YouTube Shorts we're also making as well. It's different content from this. It's very similar subject matter, but still it's new and something you haven't seen on the podcast. And we play a little bit more games like we kind of did with the football, choosing your team there as well. So make sure to check those out as well.
Yeah, and for Jake in that corner, I'm not doing a boxing analogy this week. For Jacob, thank you for watching and listening to another episode of the Renegades Sports Podcast.